Assalamu alaikum class. Today we are going to study epidemiological study designs. This is the most important lecture in the whole academic session. You must be knowing that when we were discussing research methodology in our initial part of the academic session, and we were discussing the methodology of any research design. I told you that there are 10 important components of the research methodology. The most important one is the setting where you are conducting your research, what are the timings of your research, and then the third component is the most important component, which is the study designs. And trust me, many of the researchers do not know exactly that what study design should be applied on their research, and this is the most difficult question which they come across. So if your concept of today's lecture become clear, it will help you a lot to become a researcher, and it will help you to understand epidemiology in depth. So I will strongly recommend you to stay focused during this lecture and give full attention to this lecture, as it is a very, very important lecture. So what we will be discussing in this lecture, that how the epidemiological studies are basically classified, what are different types of epidemiological studies, what are their designs, and how do we conduct their analysis during research, and which study designs should be selected at what specific time period and with what specific conditions available, because choosing a study design is always problematic for the researchers who do not have the concept of epidemiology. Let me re-emphasize here that I want all of you to pay attention to this lecture, as this makes the basis of epidemiology. Fine? Okay, so study designs. Epidemiological study designs are basically categorized into two broad terms: descriptive studies and analytical studies. As the name is suggestive, in descriptive studies, the researcher only describes the data. Fine. And in analytical studies, the researcher analyzes the data, makes assumptions, makes hypotheses, accepts hypothesis or rejects hypothesis. While in descriptive studies, these studies help in describing the data and help in hypothesis making. A researcher makes the hypothesis on the basis of descriptive studies, but a researcher accepts or rejects this hypothesis on the basis of analytical studies. Fine. Let me give you an example as medical educationists. For example, in fourth year MBBS students, if we see that what was the attendance of the students who were attending online lectures regularly, they were providing assignments regularly, they were vigilant with their attendance and assignments, and they were working hard during this time period. It will be done by descriptive studies, because I will check the attendance, I will see the assignments, and I will make assumptions that there are certain students and this percentage is interested in the lectures, this percentage is interested in making assignments, and this percentage is not at all interested in any type of lectures. So I'm only describing the data. But if I want to do comparisons on this data by assuming that the female students are much more vigilant in attending their lectures and they are more quick to submit their assignments, it means I am making a hypothesis based on the descriptive data that females are relatively better students as compared to the male students in fourth year MBBS, which is my population of interest. Fine. So what I will do is, now I will conduct analytical studies to assess that whether this difference between the genders is right or it is wrong. It means I now will work to conduct the research in such a way that I will accept my hypothesis that female students are better students, or I will reject this hypothesis that the females are as good as the male students. So I will conduct the analytical studies. So the basic difference is in descriptive studies, the researcher describes the data. In analytical studies, the researcher analyzes, makes assumptions, rejects or accepts the hypothesis. Fine. Going towards the descriptive studies, number one is the case report. Case report means any unusual happening which have occurred in the surroundings of the researcher, which which is unexplainable, and the researcher wants to find out the reason of a single case which has occurred there, will be known as a case report. The example of case report previously was quoted as in early 80s there was a male African man who presented with pneumocystis carinii pneumonia, which was a atypical pneumonia. And this particular person presented, he was young, he was healthy, and he presented with atypical pneumonia. And the doctor became interested that why this particular person has become a case of atypical pneumonia. So he tried to find out the reasons for that, and it was then proved that a new virus and HIV positivity was correlated with the occurrence of the atypical pneumonias and the presentation of pneumocystis carinii pneumonia in that particular young African male. And then it was also thought that his homosexual pattern is somewhat related with the presentation of this type of presentation. So, a single case studied in depth is known as and presented in front of the world by the researcher is known as case report. Another recent example is the doctor who pointed out a single case which occurred in Wuhan and presented with atypical pneumonia, and he related it with the this occurrence of atypical pneumonia with that this pneumonia has a relationship with somewhat seafood market, or it is related to a virus which is new, is known as a case report. Fine. What happened then after the eruption of the first case? Many new cases arises in that community in the Wuhan in the seafood market, and the case series of 27 cases came in front of the world, where all the people presented with atypical pneumonia, and they had a relationship with the seafood market. So the researcher made an assumption that this particular virus, which is diagnosed in these 27 people, has a relationship with seafood market in the Wuhan, and maybe the route of transmission is orophycal route, and it is because of the contamination of hand. So a number of cases, when studied together by an epidemiologist, and the epidemiologist wants to find out that how these cases are presenting, what is the most possible common exposure of these cases will be labeled as case series. Another example of case series would be let a researcher wants that he wants to conduct a study in preterm births which are occurring in a specific hospital, and he or she wants to find out that what are the reasons for the occurrence of preterm births in that particular setting. So you combined all cases of preterm birth, and you want to describe the data which you obtain out of them, and you present them in front of the world is known as case series. So the difference between case report and case series is, or both of them are the branches of descriptive studies. In case report, only a single case is presented, and in case series, small number of cases combined together which have similar characteristics are presented in front of the world by the researcher. Moving onwards to the descriptive studies is a cross-sectional survey. A cross-sectional survey means a study conducted in a single point in time, and the researcher only wants to describe the data in terms of time, place, and person distribution. For example, if we take you to a community, for example, we take you to Sham Ki Bhatiya, and there we conduct a household survey, and we see that there the number of tuberculosis patients with tuberculosis is a great number there. So we will be saying that the tuberculosis is prevalent there. And as we are conducting cross-sectional survey at a single point in time, we will be interested to know that what is the distribution of tuberculosis according to place, that uh, is tuberculosis common in whole area uniformly, it is distributed, or it is present in certain specific areas, in certain specific houses. And then we will be interested in knowing that does it affect male gender or female gender, does it affect children or older people. So the age distribution, the person distribution, the place distribution, when tuberculosis becomes more common in winters, when this all these communities sit together, and the houses are closed, and there is winter season, and they sit together around a common porch of fire, and indoor, the chances of spread of tuberculosis increased. So time, place, and person distribution is studied in the cross-sectional survey in a single point in time. It means the researcher goes to an area, or researcher fixes a point of time, that this is the time when we are conducting this study, and we will be observing the population, and we will be trying to find out that what is happening in this society. For example, another example will be that a researcher wants to conduct a survey on school health children, and he wants to see how many of them have refractory errors, how many of them have measles, how many of them have postural defects, how many of them have lice in their hair. All this distribution will be collected under the heading of the cross-sectional study. So I have concluded in descriptive studies that if a single case is reported, then it means it's a descriptive study. If case series, if the epidemiologist is interested in case series, then a number of cases which are similar to each other are combined together, and then they are studied, and their distribution is studied and presented in front of the data, in front of the world, is known as case series. And if a specific area in a single point in time or in a period of time, the observations are done to assess the time, place, and person distribution, the study is known as cross-sectional survey. Fine. So if this is clear to you, let's move towards the analytical studies. Okay, so we have discussed descriptive studies in detail, and now we are moving towards the analytical studies. As I have already mentioned, the analytical studies are those studies in which the researcher wants to find out the associations, he wants to find out the relationships, he wants to find out causations, and he wants to accept or reject his hypothesis. Analytical studies are further divided into two major categories: observational studies and experimental studies. This is very important to understand that if a researcher is only observing, it means he is conducting an observational study. And if he is manipulating something which will result in the change in the outcome of interest, then he will be conducting an experimental studies. For example, if I want to assess that what is the passing percentage between male students and female students, and I as head of the department do not intervene or do not teach you all and just observe that what is the passing percentage between the two genders, it will be an observational study. But if I really work hard and give you lectures, give you assignments, it means I am experimenting. I am doing something which will change the outcome. So, if a researcher is doing something which will change the outcome, it means he is experimenting, and the type of study design will be conducted as experimental study design. Moving towards the observational study design, these are divided into two categories. Cohort studies are known as prospective studies and they travel forward in time, while the case control studies are those studies which are known as retrospective studies, and they are actually done while dealing with the history of exposure in cases and controls. So this is a forward moving study and this is a retrospective study. In cohort study, there is a normal group of population which is divided into two groups, exposed and non-exposed, and then we see that what is the outcome of exposure. For example, if we take a population in which there are some people who are smokers and some people who are non-smokers, it means some are exposed and some are non-exposed. And then we will move forward and see after 20 years that what was the incidence of lung cancer among smokers and what was the incidence of lung cancer among non-smokers. So we are just observing in time and we are moving forward in time. While in case control studies, we take cases and then we compare them with controls. For example, in the same study, if I take the patients who are suffering from lung cancer and those who are not suffering from lung cancer, and I go back in time and ask the patients who have lung cancer that whether they have smoked in their youth or whether they have used hookah, they have used bidi, they have used shisha, and then I talk to control people and I take their history that whether in their youth they have smoked or they have used hookah, shisha, bidi, etc. Then I will compare the rates which have occurred in of exposure in case of cases and in case of controls, and then I will reject or accept my null hypothesis will be known as case control studies. Fine. So going towards so in observational studies, let me summarize. The cohort studies are prospective studies. The case control studies are retrospective studies. In cohort study, the population starts with exposure and we follow them for the outcome for a long period of time. But in case control study, the disease has already occurred and we go back in time and see that what was the exposure rate between cases and between controls. So, moving towards the other type of analytical studies are known as experimental studies. In experimental study, the researcher is doing something to change the outcome. As a doctor, you are giving a medicine to change the outcome. As a doctor, you are doing surgery to change the outcome. As a doctor, you are giving vaccines to prevent the number of cases. It means you are experimenting. As teachers, we are experimenting that traditionally we were teaching by the traditional method and now we are doing online lecturing. So this is all, it comes in experimental study design. So in experimental study design, this is further divided into two types. Therapeutic trial, in which you want to do experiments to treat the patient, and in preventive trial you want to do the experiments to prevent the disease. In preventive trial, the most important experimentation is vaccination and also the health education, that how the health education imparted in a group of people will reduce the number of cases. For example, if I take a group, a community in which I give health education that coronavirus disease is actually prevented by the use of face masks, I'm giving health education sessions, I am doing media talks, I am printing this information in the newspapers. It means I'm doing health education intervention. And after a certain period of time, I will see that how many people in the community are actually using the face mask and how much it has reduced the incidence of disease in that community will represent the preventive trial. Fine. In case of therapeutic trial, the doctors or the researchers want to treat the patient. For example, you must have heard that many drugs have been tried in the treatment of coronavirus disease, and sometimes the WHO says that hydroxychloroquine has a role. Sometimes it is said that the corticosteroids had a role in treatment of coronavirus disease. So when you are doing treatment options to treat the patient, then it is known as therapeutic trial. I have put this in particular picture because I want to know that if you know this particular slide and you know that what is the study design, where you are going to use it, it means that you now know the 50% of the epidemiology. This is the most important slide. You must know it by heart. And one of the very important Viva question which is asked by the external or those examiners who are taking research methodology and epidemiology. So moving further, they are further categorized. As I have already told you, epidemiological study designs are divided into descriptive and analytical. Descriptive study designs are further divided into case report, case series, cross-sectional. And if you are conducting cross-sectional survey for a long period of time, it is known as longitudinal study. Analytical study is further divided into observational and experimental. Observationals are basically case control, in which you take cases, you compare them with controls, and retrospectively you go in time and ask about the exposure. In cohort studies, you start with a normal healthy population, which is divided into two groups, the exposed and non-exposed, and you follow them over a period of time, and you want to know that whether this exposure has caused this particular disease or not. Then the experimental studies, I have already mentioned, there are field trials, therapeutic trials, preventive trials. And then there are further two important categories of the experimental studies, which are known as randomized controlled trials and non-randomized controlled trials. If the researcher is doing intervention with a single group for treatment, it is known as therapeutic trial. If a researcher is doing intervention with a single group for the prevention of disease, it is known as preventive trial. But if the researcher is comparing two groups, it means he is now conducting randomized control trial or non-randomized control trial. There will be a control group in the experimentation. And if the allocation of the participants in the study is done randomly, it means it is randomized control trial. And if they are distributed non-randomly, it is known as non-randomized control trial. We will be discussing them in detail. Actually, the meaning of random, when comes in your mind in English language, it is known as systematic. It is known as haphazard distribution. But when the biostatistician or epidemiologist use the term of randomization, it is a very, very systematic process in which the participants are allocated into different groups by computer generated tables, or by different lottery methods, or by some other methods of randomization to remove the bias of the researcher. And then two groups are compared. If randomization is done, then it is known as randomized control trial. If non-randomization is done and simply the researcher decides that this is one group in which I will do intervention number one, and this is the second group in which I will do intervention number two, this is known as non-randomized control trial. I will give you an example. For example, if you are sitting in a gynae OPD and you see that a number of female patients who are pregnant and have reported to you in OPD are suffering from anemia, you randomly divide them into two groups. And to one group you give the oral iron tablets, and to other group you will give venofer injections. And you want to know that after 3 months whose anemia is increased, were the iron tablets were more affected or injection venofers were more effective. It means you are conducting a therapeutic trial. And if you have distributed the patients into two groups according to random tables, it means you are conducting a randomized control trial. But if you know that venofer injections are very, very expensive and they cannot be afforded by the patients, and non-affording patients are given iron tablets and the affording patients are given venofer injections, it means the researcher biases there, and it will be known as non-randomized control trial. The most important thing is that you must know these study designs in detail, and you must know how and where they should be used. So whatever I have told you, I will quickly go through it again. There are non-interventional studies and interventional studies, and there is another term which is known as quasi-experimental studies. If you are not doing randomization, it is known as the quasi-experimental studies. So moving forward, what are exploratory studies? These are basically done to explore the phenomena, and they are done in qualitative studies. We have discussed in detail the quantitative and qualitative studies in the initial part. The qualitative studies are those in which you want to assess the behaviors, phenomena, the perceptions of the participants, and you want to explore them. Fine. So, what were the reasons why coronavirus emerged? How it behaved initially, all comes with the exploratory studies. They are small scale studies. They are used to describe the unfamiliar phenomena, and usually the researcher want to explore the phenomena by conducting the qualitative studies, which are usually not considered that the undergraduate students will be knowing them in detail. So, descriptive studies, as the name is suggestive, it will describe the phenomena, what is the disease distribution, time, place, and person. No analysis. The hypothesis is generated in the cross-sectional survey, but the epidemiologist only describes the data. He is happy with the data to describe it in terms of time, place, and person distribution. He does not want to find out the associations. He does not want to find out the causations. He just wants to present his data, and the most important example is the cross-sectional descriptive study, which we usually conduct in fourth year MBBS. Fine. And many of you have developed your synopsis, and you must know that in each study design which we are conducting cross-sectional descriptive study in which we are only describing the studies. Fine. The most important strength of descriptive studies is that these are known as prevalence studies, and you can find out what are the total number of cases present in a community, which will be giving you the number of new and old cases both in the population. And you can calculate the knowledge, attitude, and behavior of people around a certain specific disease in descriptive studies. That, for example, in coronavirus epidemic, how many of them have knowledge that coronavirus spreads with the um, airborne transmission, how many of them believe that it is transmitted by the orofecal route, and how many of them wear mask, how many of them believe that wearing mask is not important for prevention. These are known as CAP studies, in which we assess the knowledge, attitude, and practices of the communities and the behavior of the communities. Fine. Then there are analytical studies. In analytical studies, the researcher wants to analyze things. He wants to find out associations and an association finding. Now the researcher uses his brain, whatever data he has obtained from the cross-sectional survey, he wants to analyze it, and he wants to do comparisons. So cross-sectional comparative studies comes in analytical studies, cohort studies, and case control come in the analytical studies. For example, in cross-sectional comparative studies, we compare groups. For example, a study was conducted to assess the psychosocial changes which have occurred in home quarantined university students, and we wanted to assess that although the depression and anxiety has increased in the university students due to this pandemic, but was there any gender difference between the two groups? Were males affected more or were females affected group? It means we are comparing the two groups, and when we are comparing the two groups in the cross-sectional study, we are conducting cross-sectional comparative study or cross-sectional analytical study. Again, then at one point in time, this is just to show you, for example, we see, I want to assess that, yes, the coronavirus has affected a large number of occupations, and the people who were occupied in different occupations, and there is downsizing, and the income has been reduced. I will conduct a survey, and then I want to see that which component, the finance, marketing, sales, a managerial component which has much more increased effect of this pandemic on their income, then I will compare these groups. This will be known as cross-sectional comparative study. Fine. So the most important thing is to consider is that in cross-sectional comparative study, the disease and exposure have already occurred. For example, let me give you an example that I go in a community and I want to know that how many of them are smokers there and how many of them are suffering with lung cancer. So the time, place, and person distribution will be calculated, and the lung cancer will be there, smoking will be there, disease and exposure both are present in one point in time. So that makes the basic strength of the cross-sectional survey. But in case control study, the disease has already occurred, and we want to go in the past and we want to know about the exposure. As I have already mentioned, that those cases who are suffering with lung cancer will be compared with those who are not suffering with lung cancer. And retrospectively in time, we will go and ask them about the history of smoking. And in cohort study, the exposure is present. For example, we will take a healthy population, we will divide them into two groups, those who are smokers and those who are not smokers, and then we will follow them forward in time. And after 15 to 20 years, we will see that which group has developed a large number of cases of lung cancer. So this is important that time is the key. At present, disease and exposure both are present in cross-sectional studies. The disease is present, but the exposure was in past will make the case control study. But the disease is will occur in future, but the exposure is present will make the cohort study. Very, very important slide. So in cohort study, normal healthy population divided into two groups, the exposed and non-exposed, and followed over a period of time to assess the disease occurrence. This is the population. Normal healthy population makes a cohort. You will start the study design here, and you will move forward in time. You will divide the group into two, exposed and non-exposed. Let me give you another example. For example, you want to see you want to find out an association between the use of oral contraceptives and the development of the lung cancer. Then you will take a normal healthy population in which some of them are exposed to oral contraceptive pills and some are not exposed to oral contraceptive pills. And after 10 years or 15 years of follow-up, you will see that those who were taking oral contraceptive pills, how many of them developed breast cancer and how many of them have not developed breast cancer. And those who were not taking oral contraceptive pills, how many of them have developed cancer and how many of them have not developed cancer. Fine. This is the study design of cohort study. So in cohort study, we calculate the relative risk, we calculate incidence rate, we calculate cumulative incidence rate. We will be discussing them in detail when we will be discussing cohort study. Moving towards the case control studies. In case control study, the disease has already occurred. For example, the breast cancer have already occurred. And we take a comparable group in which the breast cancer is not present, and then we will see that how many of them who have developed breast cancer have taken oral contraceptive pills in the past and how many of them have not taken oral contraceptive pills. In the same way, in the controls who were not diseased, who haven't developed breast cancer, how many of them have taken oral contraceptive pills and how many of them have not developed oral contraceptive pills. Um, it is important to note that in cohort study, we start from exposure to and go towards the outcome. But in case control study, we start with the outcome and go back in time to assess the exposure. So this will be case control study. Again, the population divided into case and controls and retrospective in time. Retrospective in time. In the history, we will see how many of them were exposed and non-exposed. To analyze the case control study, we calculate the odds ratio, which we will be discussing in detail. Interventional studies, the researcher is doing intervention to see the outcome. If it is done into two groups, it is known as classical experimental. If a single group is used, it is known as quasi experimental. Again, what is done in the experimental studies is, number one, the researcher is doing some intervention. For example, there is a disease and the researcher divides them into two groups, and to this group it will give treatment A, to this group it will give treatment B, and then moving forward, he will see that how many of them have died. So there is a manipulation, it means intervention. There is the presence of control groups in experimental studies. And if the researcher divides the two groups on the basis of computer table generated tables, it is known as randomization. If the researcher has divided them into two groups on lottery method, on device method, on other methods by randomization, it is known as randomized control trial. But if the researcher divides them on their own will, depending upon their socioeconomic condition, depending upon their gender, depending upon their age group, then it means it is a non-randomized control trial. So, in randomized control trial, there is population, randomization is done, group 1, group 2, intervention is done, and then follow-up and analysis is done. Fine. The randomized control trial is actually following the same path as the cohort studies, but the total difference between the two is in cohort study, the researcher is not doing any manipulation, he's only observing. But in randomized control trial, the researcher is actually manipulating something to change the outcome of the research. Fine. In quasi-experimental study, either the control group is not there or randomization is missing. So this is known as quasi-experimental study. Whenever we want to choose a study design, we should know that the ethical issues should be minimum. For example, if you have started with a trial, experimental trial, and you see that it is producing more harm to the patient with a large number of side effects, you should stop that trial. You should not continue that study design just to finish your study design, and you should take into consideration that this drug is causing harm. So ethical issues should be kept in mind. You should know what are your resources and what are the administrative issues for conducting a study design, what is the time period which you will be needing, how much resources you will be needing, what is the time, place, and person requirement for conducting this study design. This should be kept in mind. For example, a Framingham heart study has been started for about 60 years ago, and it is still continuing, and in which the researchers are trying to find out the relationship between ischemic heart disease and multiple factors. So you cannot conduct a study for more than 60 years if you have resources which are limited and you are not provided with administrative issues. You must know that you should conduct a study design which should be valid and reliable of your results. You cannot actually accept or reject your hypothesis on the basis of cross-sectional survey. You have to do the actually the observational or experimental studies to find out causation and association. And the most important thing to develop the causation and association is the randomized control trial. You must know what is the nature of your topic, which actually directs you that this should be the study design. So all these considerations should be kept in mind, and this is the most important component of epidemiology, that how do you decide for the epidemiological study design while conducting a research. I hope things are clear now, and I will be giving you a small assignment to assess it whether you have understood the lecture of today, which makes the basis, and then we will be discussing these study designs one by one in detail. Thank you so much. If you have any questions, you can contact me directly or through Facebook or WhatsApp group. Thank you so much.